a couple of the concepts that were really important to me were, I love a craft cocktail, but I'm not buying all the ingredients for it. I'm not taking 20 minutes to make it. You need to make a cocktail 100 times before it's really, you perfect it.
Yeah.
So I've added some flavors that elevate my cocktail quickly without doing a lot of work, which really good for, consumers that want that experience, as well as like a high volume, fast moving bar.
Awesome.
A little more idiot proof, so to speak, in terms of making cocktails.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. Today we are in Shelburne, Vermont, and joining me is Craig of Hart Distillery.
Hey there.
Hey, thank you very much for hosting us today. Really appreciate this. I look forward to trying a few of your products. Beautiful distillery, beautiful still. I've always said I'm a big fan of Vermont, and this is the first time I've discovered you guys, so I'm looking forward to this. What's the story? What created Hart?
Sure. The first was, the real impetus was I didn't like my current job. That's a good motivator. Worked in the healthcare field for a long time, and healthcare reform is not making it fun for people to be working in that area, or it's difficult. But at the core of it, I love making things. I always felt more satisfied having something in my hand, picking up a bottle and being really accomplished versus, with other jobs, a report, which is electronic, isn't as exciting.
Yeah, those PDF files.
Yeah, no, and then they're going to sit there. Versus, I know that this is going to go to a good home. I know that's going to get put to good use. And I do like spirits. I like my beer and wine, but I like spirits. I particularly like gin. It's really one of my go-tos. So you can see that's where we started. But we're incorporated in 2015.
Okay.
And then the grand opening was in 2017. Did a certificate course at Vermont Technical College. I think they're still running that. And then did some apprenticing with a distillery in the Northeast Kingdom. And that's kind of how things started. But 3 years ago, right before the pandemic, I kind of made the big leap of, as an owner, I needed to be all in, or not. And certainly the business model just requires you to be putting in a lot of sweat equity.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I've always said, like, my idea would be as a project manager of something like this, where I would hire somebody who's passionate about creating, and then I would be like, okay, how are we going to get this at, like, be the sales end?
Yep.
I can't. Science is hard. So
yeah, it's a lot of math. Thankfully, my background is in science. Before I was in healthcare or public health, it was in science, which helps primarily math. I think it's more impressive when people think, oh, you've got a degree in microbiology with your fermentation, but really, when it boils down to it, you got to be good at math, and then it's also really, it's manufacturing. So you're trying to do the same thing over and over. But it would be nice to have a business partner, someone that's as invested. So, because in the summertime, you're working 80 hours a week. You're out there making alcohol, you're selling alcohol, you're going to special events, farmers markets. We do lots of farmers markets. And in the wintertime, it's make all winter to free yourself up for summer. Yeah. So it'd be good to do that, but I realized we tried a couple of different models of having people here. It really requires, I think, a lot, unless you've got really deep pockets. It really requires the owner to have some, a big interest in it.
Powerball is in the billions this week, so
I am playing it. If you can't win if you don't play. So
exactly.
I'm still going to play it. It's funny. I was thinking on the way over this morning, I would still continue this work. This is the hardest work I've ever done. I make less money than any job probably I've ever had on an hourly basis, but it's still rewarding. You have those moments where you're just like, is this what you want to do when you're, a business plan that is slowly growing to break even, to get some salary. And yeah, I love it. So if I hit Powerball, it would just be more fun.
Yeah. Maybe just a little extra travel and hire somebody to help you.
Exactly. Yeah, less stress, less work, but more fun and more innovative stuff, more creative stuff.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of your creative stuff, you brought me out a few things to try here. What am I starting with here?
Sure. So we're going to start you off with a blood orange gin. So we do an American dry style gin. An American dry style is just less ingredients than a London dry, so it's more balanced. It's not just about the juniper. We do juniper, coriander, cranberry, and lemon peel. So that's going to be the 4 flavors you're going to taste, not just the juniper. Then we've got some specialized gins. So this one was actually riffed off of a gin I found in Italy.
Okay.
So the blood orange is going to add a citrusy raspberry layer of flavor to it. I'm a gin and tonic guy, so usually when people ask me how I drink it, it's gin and tonic. But great in a Negroni, great in a French 75. It's got a little bitterness that matches well with Campari.
The nose on this, it's that orange, right?
I'm very into like the different flavors and scents, and now I'm also into like what's my favorite glass.
Yeah.
So it's definitely all the senses that I'm going for in terms of my experience with it. It's just not chugging it down. It's an entire experience for me.
Yeah, no, that's the thing with craft alcohols is they're not meant to like sit in a park and be chugging by a campfire. As you make these. So.
Yeah, and a couple of the concepts that were really important to me were, I love a craft cocktail, but I'm not buying all the ingredients for it. I'm not taking 20 minutes to make it. You need to make a cocktail 100 times before it's really, you perfect it.
Yeah.
So I've added some flavors that elevate my cocktail quickly without doing a lot of work, which really good for, consumers that want that experience, as well as like, like a high volume, fast moving bar.
Awesome.
A little more idiot proof, so to speak, in terms of making cocktails. So in Negroni, same ingredients, 3 ingredients, except you're substituting the blood orange, you elevate it, and instantly have something that's a little bit easier to make and still delicious and entertaining.
All right, let's get this shot
Yeah,
here.
cheers.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. It's so smooth.
It's very seasonal right now too. It's got a little extra body, which lends to drinking. I drink gin year round, but it lends to drinking it this time of the year. And the red is very harvest, very holiday. My take on this with folks is, make a regular cocktail, because during the holidays you're going to be doing a lot of cooking, a lot of food. Make a regular cocktail like your gin and tonic. Garnish the shit out of it. That's your elevation. Don't tell them that you bought it already made. Take the credit and just garnish it to hell.
Yeah. Now it's like get back together and enjoy things and buy local products. I've always said, not always, but the last 20 years I've been buying local. There's no question you should have always been buying local.
Yep.
Diageo is always going to make their money.
Yep.
I'd rather support a guy like you.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, thank you. But, Vermont's very good about that. Very locally based. We make a lot of stuff too. Vermonters are pretty productive in the food, beer, wine.
Beer.
So there's opportunities, right? There's opportunities, and it's worthwhile to spend a little bit more money for the type of quality that you're getting. So.
Yeah, 100%. I will always do my best to buy local when I can.
Yeah.
It's always not an option, but it should be there.
Exactly.
And that's why the craft cocktail surgence that's coming is awesome to see.
Yeah.
So amazing. Why called it Wild Hart? Why not Shelburne Distillery or
Good
your
question.
name?
Naming, branding, like everything you see right here, the hardest decisions you make, you spend so much time and then you're like, leave it behind and make rent. You forget that you ever had that process. So actually, if you took a close look at our logo, I'll actually turn this one around. And our full logo has a red swoop, a circle around it. But when you make alcohol, it comes out in 3 stages, essentially: heads, hearts, and tails.
Okay.
So I wanted something that was connected to the alcohol process, primarily because I'm not super creative. So when you look at all of our products, they're named exactly what they are. And so I wanted to have that connection with our logo. So Hart, H-E-A-R-T, is the alcohol that you drink. Hart, H-A-R-T, is a red deer.
Yeah.
And so it made that leap, but it also made a connection to kind of the outdoors and, having a sense of place with your product like Vermont and having an association is important to me. So I think the red deer brought it in there as well. The other parts of the logo is that we really focus on traditional distilling methods, but we're modernizing the flavors. So what you just had now, like the blood orange gin, very modernized style in terms of doing the American dry and modernized in terms of the flavors that you're adding into it, but traditional methods of distilling and infusing. And so when you take a look at our logo, and the woodcut of the deer is kind of your old and your traditional, and then the modernized, stylized lettering for Wild Hart is your contemporary. So really it was bringing in, the process of making alcohol and the association, a sense of place of Vermont and the deer, and then bringing some contemporary as well as traditional concepts together for a brand.
Amazing. Shelburne was very welcoming of a distillery opening up in the area. I'm assuming already having Fiddlehead there quite a while.
It's still harder. Like we have our tasting room is still closed post-COVID. It's harder to bring people in off the street. I think the key with this building was it was a new construction, so it was built the way that we saw it or the way that we needed it. So we didn't have to come in and renovate. So the sprinkler system, where the walls were put, where piping and sinks, that was all done for us. And I would say that was the biggest win. Yeah.
Any initial difficulties, I'm assuming, outside of having, obviously, money to create a product like this?
Yeah.
What were some other difficulties from just,
it
wasn't where you wanted to?
Fire marshal. Forgive me for the, so one of the challenges that I think distilleries have, and I think they've been working on this, is that the fire codes don't have a section on distilleries. So you're interpreting a distillery in the realm of, let's say, jet fuel production or other products. And our initial challenge was working with the fire marshal and agreeing on where are you located. So the first ground that we had with them before we had to hire a consultant to help indicate otherwise, we were we were one level below the production of explosives. And so the requirements they had for our building, I mean, you come to the table and they're like, well, here's the requirements that we're going to have for your building. And you're like, I can't do business.
Yeah.
That's it. I can't move alcohol at all. I can't, we're having firewalls everywhere separating. And, we brought in a consultant, which is more money. And then we came to an agreement on what it was. And then we built it out. And then they came back to do their final inspection and they were like, yeah, no, we changed our minds. We want something different. And then it was, calling up the governor's office. A good thing about Vermont, probably the bad thing for the governor, people pay attention.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting the state level person in here who was like, okay, let's cut through this. So just a couple of examples of, we've got these, $2,000 not installed, fire explosion proof lighting, explosion proof outlets. Ultimately, the lighting wasn't needed. Oh, you didn't need that. But instead, we had to install another $10,000 fan here, which sucks the air out of the room three times a hour, which is a great safety feature. Yeah. It's just, it delayed the project for months and you outlaid more cash. And it's just really hard for a startup where you're like, where am I coming up with enough money to pay rent? Never mind, here's another $10,000 for a piece of equipment that it's not adding value. I am thankful that we have the safety equipment that we do. I always feel like we're the safest distillery here. But when you go to different places, the standards are different because we have regional fire marshals, regional input. But it all stems from in the national fire codes, there's nothing on distilleries. So you have to interpret.
What's number 2 I'm trying here?
Number 2, okay, so our Vermont Classic. So when you open a distillery, when you open a brewery, when you open a bread baking business, everyone is like, you got to do something with maple. So I hate the concept, but I'm very proud of this one, and I think it's a really good seller as well. The whole idea is that anything with sugar in it is going to soften and blend together your flavors. So we did our same base, juniper, coriander, cranberry, and lemon peel, but we put like 30% more botanicals. At a higher level, it gets pungent, a little sharp, particularly on the juniper. Just 2.5% maple softens it, blends it together, so you get this nice, rich gin flavor. Lightly sweet straight up, but when I'm mixing my gin and tonic, you're getting more like a note of vanilla and caramel. Nice. So you don't get that mapley sweet. Because I think oftentimes with products that have maple, it's overdone. It's too much maple. So it has that notoriety. It's very Vermont. It's more special. And what I'm proud of is it's got a good following because we really made a delicious spirit.
Yeah. No, our last interview at Mill River too, they're like, oh, we had our maple seasonals out, and I'm just like, it's perfect. But I've had where it's just that maple where it's
too much.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like I'm tasting the sugars, and I shouldn't be tasting the sugar.
Yep.
I should be tasting just that right balance with that right porter, like the coffee.
You always have to remember you can add more. If you want a maple gin and tonic, you'd add more maple to it. You can't take it out. Yeah. So it's got to, and the other is I wanted it to have a purpose versus be the stand-up flavor. Mm-hmm. It still is gin.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Toast. Oh, yeah.
Completely different personalities. You know, we've got 4 different gins, each are different personalities. I might oscillate between them by season, by mood.
Yeah.
Definitely more body to it than your dry gins or our pear ginger gin, and a lot more of that traditional flavor.
Yeah, the maple is just properly, like, to me, dancing on my palate.
Yeah.
It's not like, boom, maple.
This one I like
there you
too
go.
because you get a couple of different flavors going on. Like you get some sweet, and then you get some of your gin, and you get a beginning, middle, and end, which again is just about that whole like entertain me.
Yeah.
Give me something good.
What are those gateway products that you have for somebody who's used to that big burn and
Great question.
Oh, I just drink Jack. Oh, let's change your mind. Like,
Yeah.
what are those products?
If you're looking at these guys, first the thing is for people that are out there tasting alcohol straight up. Remember, you're tasting alcohol straight up. Give yourself credit along those lines. I'm not always the best when we do batches. I taste it straight up, but then for the gins, I make a gin and tonic. For my the chai spiced rum, I do a dark and stormy. So I'm always trying it in a cocktail to make sure the flavors come through. Because we do an American dry style and it's more balanced and not necessarily about the juniper, I would say in general, they're a little bit more entry level, but the more entry level would be going towards flavors. So the pear ginger or the blood orange, because those are going to be a little bit more in the front of the flavor. You have to choose, is gin up front and blood orange behind it, or is blood orange up front? And you've got to put the blood orange up front to actually make it come through in the cocktail. So those tend to be ones where people are like, I didn't like gin. And then what we see is then they gravitate towards like your dry style, where the juniper is a little more forward, but not all the show, and your maple. And so they start going through and discovering it more, but getting that entrance into it. I would definitely say that the flavored gins tend to be the first catch, and then people end up evolving from there. Yeah.
I mean, you could even see it too, like Ryan Reynolds having Aviator Gin, and then sold it for $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's like, it's wild that there's the demand for that. The guys from Breaking Bad have a tequila place.
Yes. Yeah.
Celebrities are getting into the alcohol game now too. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like, well, it's nice to have that, but also I don't have the pockets you have.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, I mean, we expanded recently to New York, and going into New York City, it's like, do you have a celebrity? Otherwise we're hitting up the small boutique places in Brooklyn, which are fantastic. They're really supportive of these unique brands and bring it forward. But yeah, you don't always have the pull to be like, well, let's get into one of the most popular bars in New York City.
So with kind of the farmers markets reopening, how did it feel to get like the face-to-face customers again after the last 2 years of stuff we've gone through?
Yeah, so we did, Vermont has been good in terms, I don't know how we've compared to other states when it comes to this, because first Vermont's friendly in terms of like the Department of Liquor Control, friendly in terms of really supporting the small distilleries. So we're able to go to farmers markets, special events, and sell, which is our short game as we're building our wholesale. So, the summer right after or during the pandemic, so February shutdowns, or I can't even remember now, but that following summer we were in farmers markets.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
They were masked, go one direction, keep your distance. They started with no samples. People were really supportive. But as you can imagine, going from no samples to sampling, that's the way you sell. Get it in people's mouths. And so, the return to that is good. I hope that people continue to, farmers markets were an activity you could do outside.
Yeah.
And so I hope that folks don't return to their old habits of like, I'm just going to the grocery store. I get it when they do. But it's great. I love the farmers markets. I love all of the events that we go to. They're really interesting. The vendors, people don't understand, I think, how hard people work out there and how much fun they have doing their job at the farmers markets. So for me, beginning of the season, I'm here making all winter and pretty isolated because it's kind of a pop and pop show. It's just me.
Yeah.
So I'm always rearing to go at the end of the season. I get my 1 minute to 5 minute interaction with 300, 400 people in a day. It's great. And there's always something to connect with, and that's part of our brand as well. I don't care what part of the United States you are from, what country you're from. In that little interaction, there's always something I connected with. Where are you from? What are you here? You're going to go for a drink. You're going to go to eat something. there's always a connection that you can make with people, and I love that. And that's what I think a lot of the farmers markets promote, is that connection, not just to like local food and who makes it, but there's just the connection between people, which I think, during the pandemic we lost a lot of.
Yeah.
And the nice part for me is they can be short. So if it's not a good connection, I can be like, okay, what do you want? Let's move you on. A good connection, we can chat a little more.
Okay, so speaking of getting product in mouths, what's number 3 I'm trying here?
Number 3, you're trying the corn whiskey. So we do a lot of one-offs that never make it commercially. So this is a small batch. It was, let's see, organic corn made from Aurora Farms, who also runs Nitty Gritty Grain Company. So they do things like corn flapjacks, cornbread. They market it locally. And we did a batch of this 4 years ago, or put it into barrels 4 years ago. And part of it was I finally had the time, and part of it was it's really ready. Corn is notoriously light flavored, so aging it for longer is going to give it more flavor. It also means I'm keeping it at 100 proof, so it's a higher proof so that you're not watering it down. But it came out really well. It's got like a honey, brown butter flavor to it. That classic sweetness that comes out from corn, and that earthy flavor from being stored in a bourbon barrel. So I've been enjoying this actually quite a bit, because I just bottled it, and of course there's always one bottle that's partially full that I take home, so I've been sipping it all night. It turns into those, like, I'm gonna do one finger, then two, and then I'm gonna do two fingers again. But it's been a nice sipper. I haven't looked at mixing it yet, but I've enjoyed it a lot.
Awesome. Toast.
And I was doing a little video for ourselves earlier.
It's just nice and clean. Like you said, that honey is just going right down. It's so clean.
Yeah, I mean, it sneaks up on you at 100 proof, which, my 2, 3, 4 fingers gets there, but I'm at home.
For me, when it comes to like beer, it's those double IPAs that don't taste like double IPAs. All of a sudden, you're just like, uh-oh.
Yeah. No, I've been trying to do, because I do like drinking more than, I make stuff very flavorful, so that if I want to water it down a bit, still has flavor. I kind of like that with my beer too. I'll tend to go with, like, lately at least, pale ales, where low IBUs, ABV.
Okay,
And then you're going to be able to drink 2. I know that sounds horrible of me, but I like having 2.
No, there's nothing wrong.
Particularly if they're 16 ounces, I've got to have a low ABV.
Exactly.
And I know the first one only tastes like another. My first sip is like, oh, this tastes like another one. I'm going to finish this one and really enjoy the second.
So you mentioned you kind of did this with a local farm, the corn whiskey. What are some other collabs you've done in local? Like, I know with distilleries, especially a brewery that's not happy with their beer, what can you do with this? Like, who have you worked with in the area?
We do some of the more straightforward things, like, corn from a local farm. Obviously maple, I think we'd be shooed out of the state if we didn't use the local maple. The most recent collaboration we did was with a meadery. So they had about 300 gallons of leftover mead that they couldn't use. I can't remember what the reason was, but we brought it up here and we distilled it and essentially made it into like a mead brandy. So it's actually aging right now. We did a honeycomb versus a barrel approach. So they're sticks that are cut into honeycomb shape, so they have maximum surface area, and it's turning out really well. It's a unique flavor. But those are the types of things, right now our goals are like make rent, try to do interesting things when we can. Other collaborations, I think you might have heard in the tour that we were giving, we work with other folks that are interested in creating spirits that want to start their own distillery. So we have 3 different projects that are going along those lines right now. Someone who's doing a bourbon, which is a little bit more straightforward. One is doing Fernet. So a lot of those herbs are actually locally foraged, mostly wild foraged at this time, but if it grows, they want to do collaborations with farmers. And then the other person, who's a local bartender, is doing a craft alternative to Aperol, primarily because one, he can do a really good version, and the other is we've had a hard time getting Aperol ever since COVID. It's just messed up everything still, the reverberations. So really, really happy to be offering that and collaborating with those folks to develop, new products and just expand what we're able to offer.
Awesome. I got one more thing to try here.
Oh, sure.
This
So
is
that's the chai spiced rum. It's a demerara based rum, so it's fermented from a light sugar, think sugar in the raw. And then it's aged in used bourbon barrels for 6 to 9 months, basically till it's done. And then it's infused with sweet, savory, and hot spices, Assam tea, saffron, cardamom, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, black pepper, rose petal. Straight up, it's going to be a little spicy because it's meant to cut through Coca-Cola, and the cinnamon will be a little more the star. So just sip it, and you can taste the other flavors. They'll follow through. But love myself a rum and Coke. Love a dark and stormy.
Yeah. Awesome. Toast. In the meantime, so you're clearly very, very busy, but when there's free time to take a booze-based vacation, where's that going to be?
I have done one in the past so I went and stayed in Puerto Vallarta, which is in the province of Jalisco, where tequila is made, and I loved it. That's all I drank when I was there was tequila. It's just incredibly reasonable. You're not getting the type of tequila that you're getting here. You're getting the añejos. I don't think I drank anything other than the añejos, which are extremely expensive. You're buying them for $20 a bottle. It's still very family farm focused. So lots of small batch stuff that they're doing unique things like coffee and milk infused with tequila. But I drank it with, tequila sunrise for breakfast. You drank it like a little brandy with dinner. So I loved going to the distilleries and looking at all of the processes, the families. Some of them were, these are classic, here's our stone wheel that's 200, 300 years old that our family is still running with our mule to crush it. To crush the agave and to make tequila, and throw a good zip line tour in there with tequila tasting, and that's a good vacation.
Amazing. Sounds awesome. For Wild Heart as a brand, what's next?
Oh, keep expanding. It's hard, but every year we expand locally. So this year we'd like to see ourselves at more farmers markets. So continually getting more coverage, getting the spirit in people's mouths that are either living in Vermont or visiting Vermont. Do better job with our newest distribution, which is New York, New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. So deeper relationships within those states. And I think in the next year, we'd like to expand one more time. So we try to, expand one level more locally, one level more nationally each year. Yeah. So one more of those. I don't know where it would be. The East Coast is our sweet spot because at least it's still driving distance for me to go down and meet and be involved in it.
Yeah. Give your elevator pitch, sell them.
No one sells better than me. Because you're a crazy owner, and you know the most about the product, and people do like to see the owner involved. From what I've seen so far.
Craig, thank you very, very much for hosting us today.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Great to have you guys here.
Fantastic
I'm
booze.
gonna have to send you off with some booze.
Got to be careful because of the border.
Oh, you're not here for very long.
Unfortunately not. And we'd like to go by the border rules. Next time I will be back. I will be taking time off personally to do another beercation in the Vermont area. Everything's within 2 hours when you're in Burlington, right? For sure I'll have to come back sometime and get something else. For those who are looking for Wild Heart, where can people find you?
Oh, so pretty much every liquor store in the state. You go to our website, and it's actually my direct phone number and my email, so you can email and say, hey, I'm in this area of Vermont, I'm looking for this spirit, I'll track it down for you. Otherwise, visit any of our holiday markets, farmers markets, and similarly reach out if you're in the Mid-Atlantic area and want to see where our distribution is there.
And for social media?
Yes, so we're on Instagram, Wild Heart Distillery, Facebook as well. And we're, again, given it's a pop and pop organization, every email comes to me, so you will not be ignored, or it's my fault, one or the other.
Amazing. Thank you very much once again.
My pleasure.
As for us, allbeerinside.com is the website, @allbeerinside on all social media. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.